I've never screamed at Saka the way that I screamed at him today. Like, I was like, just shoot! What the fuck? Like, I genuinely was just like, this has to be match sharpness. It has to just be match sharpness because your brain was thinking too heavily. It was like, just shoot it. The net is empty.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shirtless Plantain Show, the Arsenal edition. This is your host, Dean, and today I am here with Gabby. Hi, Gabby. How are you?
Man, just hearing it. Like,
well, we certainly appreciate you making yourself available for this specific recording because
everyone else is running from the grind.
Pretty
Not
much.
Coach.
Yeah, coach
but,
at the game. Yeah, coach at the game. But Mitch, again, he off doing some white boy shit, But it makes sense to schedule some white boy shit during a Brentford game. Brentford home in between a Real Madrid tie, So this is a game that had the scepter of the Real Madrid away leg sort of hanging over it. So it's almost a built-in excuse for every player on the field that we were not impressed with today. But we'll get into the details of who we're impressed with and who we're not impressed with after our usual listing of the lineup, which I don't think I did in the last game, but we'll call it usual for today. It was Raya, 5 at right back, which is obviously, if you've been following this season with any sort of attention, you know that 5 at right back means drop points. Saliba, Kivior, Kieran Tierney got to start. I really love that. Jorginho at the base of midfield. Rice, Zinchenko in the Odegaard spot, something he did in the PSV game a couple weeks ago. He actually scored in that instance. Less impressive today, but we'll get into it. Martinelli on his in his usual position, Trossard in the middle, and Ethan Nwaneri on the right side, sort of replacing Saka, I suppose. So when you saw the lineup, how were you feeling? Did you just assume, straight up rotation for the more important game in the midweek?
Of course. I actually didn't expect this lineup. I expected some rotation, but normally Mikel doesn't swap like everyone. It's not like a huge league. Once I saw KT, I was like, oh yeah, he don't give a fuck. Which is fair enough. I love KT. I wish I forgot to put on his jersey before I started the pod, but I was like, you know what? Before this game, I said I don't care about this Brentford game. The league is done. At this point, I don't see us dropping out of top 4, so it's just whatever.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that bit. I do think we're competent enough to see it to the end. Nottingham Forest, who are directly behind us, lost in the last minute of their game versus Everton at home. So that gave us some breathing room. So I don't know exactly what the point gap is there, but we definitely gained a point on them today. But we're here to talk about Arsenal Brentford. And what were you expecting? Mikel didn't really care because of the amount of rotation. Well, not that he didn't care, but a lot of rotation suggests that the manager is less pressed about this game. So from a results standpoint, once you saw the lineup, what were you thinking would happen?
From the lineup, I was like, we're going to struggle to create anything. Because Martinelli and Trossard cannot play together. They play horrible when they're together. And I think that Ethan has been playing like a teenager recently. Like I shouldn't even say regressed to the mean. He's just been playing like I would have expected him to play. He's been overperforming recently, and now he's a little bit more quiet. And I was like, with no Odegaard, no Saka, it's basically all on Declan Rice to do something, to find something. And it wasn't looking good.
You didn't have any hope for Zinchenko turning into a classic number 10? No?
Cut the shit.
You acting like I'm President Zelensky asking America for money or some shit, man. Relax with all that.
No, I don't have faith in that Ukrainian. Sorry.
In any event, Brentford, even though we have a good record against them, home and away, I feel like they're always a tricky opponent because Thomas Frank is a really good coach who a lot of observers feel should be at a higher station at this point in his career. But I think there's nothing wrong with hanging out in London and coaching a good team that seems to respect you. You respect them. Everything's good. You get to recruit your little Scandinavians. Life is good for you, bro. Occasionally you toss an African in. So.
Funny thing about Brentford, I was just thinking, like, when's the last time we kept a clean sheet against Brentford?
Really, I guess this is a good segue because the bigger question is, when is the last time we kept a clean sheet domestically? Like, I feel as if we've struggled to do that this season. There used to be a time when I could rely on Arsenal to keep a clean sheet. Like, maybe we couldn't score, but I was always like, okay, at least the other team won't score. That only seems to hold true in Europe this season. Not so much in the Premier League. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because we definitely can't blame today's equalizer on the PGMOL.
No. Although I will complain a little bit. No, we've been really struggling to keep clean sheets, and fair enough. Like I've been complaining about that this whole season because we tend to concede that first shot, first goal, which was almost basically what we conceded today. They had a few like maybe half chances, but they didn't really come off. And then the one that we did concede, I was just like, when I we'll get to it, but when I watched it back, I was just like, I don't really know what you could do there because it's just like
Yeah.
fair enough, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I was a little
Premier
irritated
League
by it.
teams are good enough that we're going to concede to them.
Yeah, and that's frustrating. That's frustrating. Even when Gabriel was in the lineup, we're conceding to these teams throughout the season. I think for most of these games, because there's been the commentators like to talk a lot about the number of draws that Arsenal has had this season. So I think this is our 12th draw of the season. And the context always disappears once the game is over. No commentator that mentions that fact will provide the context for the fact, like, oh, the fact that all of a sudden head clashes equal penalties away at Brighton,
Or
or
how many draws have we had to 10 men?
right,
I
like
mean,
little shit like that. Even today, it was a 10-man draw when you break it down at the end, but we'll get to all that.
exactly.
But the first observation from me was that we started the game. I'm not going to ask you how we started the game because I know your answer is going to be I wasn't impressed with the way we started, so we're just going to move on from that shit until we get to May 25th. But I thought we immediately sort of short circuited Brentford's press, which tends to be pretty good, by just kicking it long initially, which also was kind of I understood why we did it, but on the other hand, I was like, this is the shrimpiest front line we can have. So what are we doing
No
exactly?
Moreno, no Kai Havertz. Why are we kicking it long?
Right.
Like,
But it meant that they couldn't press us or rob us of the ball. And I felt like that was maybe useful given the fact that we had some new faces, yet more new faces in the back line in the form of KT. And the one or two times I remember some errors and build up, it came from Kieran Tierney. And that's not to, you know, pick on him or anything like that. It's just what happened in the game. But I thought we survived that early period of the game well. What another concession to Brentford, I thought, Gabby, was the set pieces. We played a lot of short ones today. That makes sense, right? Given the opponent.
yeah, I actually don't mind us varying our set piece routine. I feel like dropping it directly on the goalkeeper recently hasn't been getting us any joy. Because our set pieces, like goals, have been, like dried up just a little bit. I mean, not our direct free kick ones, but the corner ones at least. And I was like, if you're gonna try and do some short free kicks in games that don't matter really at this point, then do it against Brentford. I want to see what else you can do. Like get some shots on goal or combine with your teammates to get a shot away or a really good chance. Um, Most of them didn't come off well, but I didn't mind it honestly.
Yeah, well, the one that sort of seemed to come off came from the second phase of what I believe was a corner. Ethan got the ball on the right, actually closer to the what we call the right half space now, the edge of the box. He held onto the ball for a little bit, adjusted, crossed the ball in. KT hit a back header. It went right in the net. I could tell from jump that it was offside, but I was hoping I
Yeah.
was wrong. He just seemed a little too far forward when that ball got played. But I'm sure you were just excited as I was about a potential, oh, this is KT's moment before he leaves the club type. That's what you thought happened, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, I'm definitely wearing my KT jersey today on the pod, and I was like, they just
Uh,
had to take it away from me.
this is the weekend in which the PGMO and the FA finally decided to introduce automated offside, and they did use it in that moment. But I did make the observation, and I noticed this in the earlier games of the day, that the way they use it seems to look a little different from the way all the other countries are using it.
Because their line, they put the camera or the point of view in which, if anybody listening has ever watched the automated offsides in the Champions League or in other leagues, like I think they use it in La Liga as well. The way that they do the point of view for the viewer is they look directly across the line where the defender is and show you then where the attacking player is and how far he is offside. They don't do that in the Prem. They shift the point of view directly in front of both players and then put the line and you're at an angle so you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like,
Yeah, it's not the most convenient thing, but I have a suspicion that there might be a legal reason for that. I suspect that whoever does the automated offside for the other leagues that we're familiar with, Champions League, Serie A, La Liga, I imagine that software might belong to one supplier, and maybe the prems is different, so they have to do it
Not
differently.
y'all niggas using a fucking LimeWire offside. Like, wrap it up.
I'm just trying to figure out what maybe why that's different. Cause
You niggas are not poor. Pay for the real thing.
yeah, I'm not really feeling this method of it because if it almost feels vaguely corrupt, but I'm sure we all get used to it. I will say this much for it: it works faster than the assholes drawing lines. I'll give them that. So thank you for bringing this in. I don't know, 33 weeks into the season, even though you promised to have it from week one. But
If you had this automated offside 2 years ago against Brentford, maybe we would have won the league. But
you know what? You know what? That goalpost and Brentford, by the way, they're pissing me off. That goalpost and Brentford, I'm not feeling that shit. In any event, there was you mentioned, you sort of hinted at this chance earlier. And Buemo played Ayer in on an overlap, and he took a shot that Raya saved really well. There was a Norgard tackle on Martinelli that I did not like at all. He got a yellow for it. And in retrospect, even at the time, I kind of felt like, okay, it was a little much, but a yellow was fair. Do you agree with that, or do you think it should have been more?
I think it was a yellow as well when I watched it in real time. I think the thing that almost like pushed me to the other side was when you see the stills with the slow mo and you see how high his foot
Yeah.
is like that was higher than I thought it was. Like what? And you're tackling from behind. Scissor kick. I think it was just, in my opinion, I would like to see. I wouldn't mind him getting a red card there, not just because it's against my team, but because I think that you should always want to give red cards or be more strict against dangerous play than you are against any of the other rules that are in the prem table. Like, you know what I mean? Like any of the other rules in the rule book, y'all be handing out second yellows and red cards, but anytime it's dangerous play, y'all be like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's this. I think it's this general English inclination towards physical play. It's like
Yeah,
there's
it
a
was
very clear,
orange for sure.
yeah, there's a clear line between physical and trying to ruin someone's career. Like, and that was kind of on the edge there. I didn't like the scissor motion. I didn't like how high his leg was, but I wasn't so mad at it. I can't help feeling as if that was maybe MLS that did that tackle, it would have been a red card.
Listen,
It would have been a red card. But
is it the underbelly? Maybe.
it is the underbelly. It's the underbelly, my sister. It's the underbelly for sure. Because I'm not feeling that.
Listen, Perez put in some calls. That guy used to play for Real Madrid or something like that. So, listen, it is what it is. Boss calls were made.
Boss calls were made indeed. After that tackle, there was yet another one of those short corners, and Zinchenko took a shot at the near post. I thought that was okay given the context. But he was never actually threatening to score in that situation, I don't think, looking back at it.
Yeah.
But I like it as a variation on what we typically do. Then there was a moment, it didn't really lead to anything, where Rice got the ball in that left 8 area, drove into the box, threw a step over, and crosses the ball. It gets deflected off for yet another corner. But in that moment, and maybe I'm gassing it, Gabby, but I felt like that was the most natural Declan Rice had looked as a left 8 in the entire time he's been at the club. He just looked like he belonged there. He looked like Eberechi Eze in that moment.
I agree. Actually, right after that happened, somebody tweeted and was like, Declan Rice is a very good 6, but he's a world class 8. And I said, I don't agree. I think it's the opposite. But the fact that he is constantly building upon his like performances at 8, like he's adding things to his game now, is just so nice to see. Because I don't want to have to complain about him playing at 8 next season. Because I just know that's what we're going to see anyway. Like if we get Zuby, that's probably what we're going to see anyway. And I'm like, you know what? At this point you're doing more than just a job there,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I don't say this to cause any drama, but I do think it's worth the discussion. Who to you looks like the more natural 8, Rice or MLS?
MLS for sure. MLS
Exactly.
for sure.
But he also looks like, I wouldn't say the more natural 6, but when it comes to passing from those deep areas, it feels like the ball leaves his foot faster than it leaves Declan Rice's feet as well. So I can see why Rice would play ahead of him moving forward, and also he's left-footed, which helps with the defensive aspect of his job. But I love having those options, and I look forward to seeing MLS in those positions in the future. But for now, Declan is doing a pretty good job. I have no complaints at the moment. I also thought that what's his face Zinchenko looked better whenever he drifted towards the left. He didn't really do. I feel like he was just standing on Ethan's feet. Really, like it was like the worst possible version of Odegaard playing next to Ethan. And I wasn't feeling it. But when he drifted left, he actually did
How
useful
did
things.
Odegaard still catch a lick?
Hey man, he that's just the way this goes. Until he shows me something different, he's gonna be a an example of what I don't want to see sometimes. But he had a decent cameo today, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But what do you think of Zinchenko's overall performance? Because he got his little hour or whatever. But
I thought Zinchenko was fine. I didn't notice him that much on the ball. Um, if that makes sense. I feel like we tend to notice him more because he's dipping passes into people's feet. Like he's trying to break the lines, and I feel like Brentford were sitting so deep, like basically at the top of their own box in this game, that it was it was more we were just plug and playing with Zinchenko. We weren't trying to force things a little bit too much. We were definitely going on the outside a lot more than we normally do when he does play. At least that's how I felt.
yeah, I think for me it was just one of those situations where that's just an area of the pitch where he's not super familiar, and part of the reason why, despite all the criticism of Odegaard, part of the reason why he's good in that role is because it's just where he's used to playing. Like Zinchenko is never going to get the time he gets playing as an inverted left back on the ball that he would get in the right eight area of the pitch, and I think that was pretty obvious today. Plus, there was the moment in the second half where he basically bumped into Ethan. Like it was like a visual metaphor for his performance from that.
I literally didn't know. I looked at them both like, "What did I just watch? Are you guys okay?" Like,
Like I'm pretty sure my neighbors heard me yell, "Nigga, move!" Like I was so irritated. I was like, "Bro, like I understand what you're trying to do there, but stop." He has this habit. It's something he's done his entire time in the league, not just at Arsenal, where he almost sometimes he gets a little enamored with wanting to touch the ball that he's like standing on people's heads and shit.
yeah,
And we saw a little bit of that today. There was a period where he dropped deeper, like Odegaard often does, and would just kind of stood on the ball for a while. And it was like, bro, we don't. I haven't missed this. Do not bring it back. We don't want this sequel. Just keep this one, Hollywood. So, but I thought he looked better when he drifted left, and he gave us a few moments, none of which I can really remember at the moment. But he didn't hurt us, so I'll give him that. There was a central shot, maybe even more than one from Trossard in that first half, and it sort of illuminated the fact that our central progression seemed a lot better than it usually is in this game. I feel like Saliba was making a deliberate effort to pass through the middle of the pitch. Jorginho being in always helps with that. He was doing the aerial passes. As a matter of fact, Saliba almost created a chance for Martinelli that got blocked by
yeah.
Ayer last second. It was a beautiful diagonal pass through the middle of the field. I would love to see more of that.
Yeah, I don't know if Saliba just doesn't rate Brentford's midfield or what, but he didn't give a damn. He was just running through that midfield and dribbling and like holding onto the ball much more than he normally does. Like sometimes he'll make that run and then he'll pass it off and then drift back into where he's supposed to be. But he just stayed up there. Like he was just like, let's see what they cooking a little bit. I wanna do some stuff. Like I wanna be
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah. I thought he was very aggressive, and I was very pleased to see it. It almost felt like, actually, no, I think I'd be gassing a little bit if I said he was taking responsibility for the entire defensive progression, but it wasn't that serious. I thought Five on the other side of him was decent as well. He didn't really dilly-dally on the ball. I appreciated that. He overlapped a little bit. That was weird, but I'll have to talk about that a little later. It was weird, but it ended up working out in the end. I thought KT did his thing. He was further up the pitch than the other defenders for the most part, because he holds the width, so we tried to get the ball to him, but I don't recall him putting in any crosses today,
I
really.
was gonna say that. I don't remember KT putting in any crosses today whatsoever, which is very weird to say about him specifically because that's his whole game.
Right.
Overlap, but like bomb forward and cross the ball.
Yeah.
But he was very much more possession based, cutting inside a little bit to underlap with Martinelli.
Yeah. And it was just, I got a little excited because I feel like when an overlapping fullback is on the pitch, then that by default forces the winger inside the pitch. And I felt like Martinelli would give us a little bit more. I thought he was good in the first half. Matter of fact, he was good for most of the second half as well until Brentford made a certain substitution, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But at halftime, after the KT goal got disallowed and, Trossard's shot got saved, We definitely had them pinned in. We definitely worked them. We had most of the possession, which is not unusual or unexpected for an Arsenal team. But, as I always ask at halftime, were you expecting any changes? Were you anticipating anything? What did you want?
I wasn't expecting any changes at halftime, personally. I actually wasn't expecting a lot of the changes that came on. Like, I wasn't expecting Saka to come on for real.
Mm,
Maybe like the last 10 minutes, if that. But Arteta gave them a big chunk of time to like get some minutes in their legs.
yeah.
Um, this shit was basically cardio, but nevertheless, he was like 30 minutes. Get your ass on there. No, you'll get no rest.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing because ultimately, from what I understand, and I think Graham Lasso on commentary sort of mentioned this, when you don't play a sufficient amount of minutes in the game, if you play like, I want to say 20 minutes or less, then after the game, you have to sprint the whole field for your fitness. And I'm sure as a player, you'd rather just play the game than do that. So I'm sure they're all glad to have gotten in. But who knows? Some of them might do sprints after the game anyway. But they all came in at one point. But before that happened, I thought the start to the second half was, compared to the first half for me, was relatively slow. We kept the ball on the floor a lot more, but we didn't really create much. I kind of remember thinking at one point, like, we're doing that you shit again. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But we sort of got control of that fairly quickly. And there were a couple more set pieces. Then Brentford got their own set piece. Raya claims the ball and rolls it out to Declan Rice, who cuts inside of Damsgaard. And I think it's a 3v2 on the counter. Martinelli, I actually respect the discipline he showed there because I was afraid he was going to run across Rice, but he just stayed on the left. And 5, weirdly enough, overlapping as if he's 23 instead of 58 because I know he African, so I know his age is fake. I know that shit. I know that's mad disrespectful and vaguely racist, but he Ghanaian, I'm Nigerian, so it's okay. And he overlaps. Declan Rice just plays it out to him to the right side. First touch, bang, finish into the net. 1-0 to the Arsenal. I'm going to spare you the torture of having to speak about this motherfucker. But I will say, as far as counterattack goes for Arsenal this season, that was a really good one. I thought it was
It
well done.
was.
It was a good one.
We never score from transitions really, and we've scored like two transitions in the last two games or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and it was very. All I was thinking like, damn, we haven't scored a set piece in a while, but like we scoring from your set pieces now.
Right.
Like,
That.
all right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I just really like the way that Raya claimed it in traffic and then released the ball quickly
Yes.
because that set the mood. I was like, don't hold on to the ball and look for something that's not gonna come off. You're gonna give them time to reset. Just let go of the ball.
Yeah.
And Declan Rice, you've changed my life. That run, yeah,
Yeah.
need that.
Raya definitely tries to do that on a fairly regular basis, I would say. That's why last weekend away at Everton at Goodison Park, when their defenders or whoever had come up for the corner kept blocking him off, and the ref kept acting as if he didn't see that shit. That shit pissed me off so bad because it's like, that's part of our game model. We're trying to get the ball into the half as quickly as possible after, because we're not the best. We're a very good counter pressing team, but we often don't convert from those counter pressing moments. So
Which we will talk again about.
right. So those set pieces are an opportunity, and when you allow a team to very blatantly interfere with our goalkeeper trying to roll the ball out after a set piece, it's very frustrating. I do love that you mentioned that we're not at the point where we're scoring from other teams' set pieces, because I remember that being a huge quality of the Invincibles. Like that was one of their trademark moves. Like when they would get a corner, I remember just sitting up as a kid back in the day, like, yes, we about to score, we about to get a chance, off another team's set piece. So that to me is another potential sign of evolution for Arsenal. We've been fairly good at that over the years when defenders don't bump Raya when he's trying to throw the ball. In any event, right after the goal, which I thought would be enough to win this game, even though we talked about how we don't keep clean sheets anymore, all the subs came on. It was 6-second minute, Saka, MLS, and Odegaard for Ethan, Kieran Tierney, and Zinchenko. That felt about right to you, right?
Yeah. All of those, other than maybe Saka, I was like, I know you want to put minutes in his legs, but I'm very fearful of him getting injured again, and I probably shouldn't be, but
Right.
especially with a game like the second leg against Real Madrid at their house, like I was like, please don't get injured in this damn dead rubber. God forbid, I would be so pissed off. The only thing that I wasn't sure about, in my opinion, was putting on Timber. I was like, Timber has been playing with nobody on that side for the whole of the season.
Yes, sir.
Like, I think you can. I think you cannot play him in this game. You know what I mean? Like,
But what was the option like? Because we know the manager wants to play five at the base of his midfield away at Real Madrid. So if you play that old motherfucker 90 minutes and he breaks down, because even when he came off, he sat down on the ground first and was clutching
I know.
at his shin or his ankle or something. I'm like, here go this nigga again, fucking something unbroke again. But thankfully he walked off and seemed to be smiling. So I was like, okay, injured players tend not to look like that. So that was comforting. Timber, I would say Timber and Saka. Matter of fact, none of the subs really did anything in my view. I feel like they all just came on to, like you said earlier, cardio.
One of them.
Which
One
one?
of them.
Which one? Which one?
We're let's talk about the soccer miss then. But
Oh,
you want to
okay,
talk about
okay,
the
okay,
goal
okay, okay.
first?
Well, before we do that, we need to talk about Wissa equalizing for Brentford because the Saka miss happened right after that. But before that happened, Brentford got a set piece. I feel like we probably gave them too many today.
Yeah.
I don't want to remember the exact details of this because I don't like remembering goals who conceded, but it was the second phase of that set piece. Lovely cross from Michael Coyote, a player that Brentford got from Fiorentina in January. Decently rated. I feel like United were in for him as well, but he made the right decision to go to an actual proper football club instead of wait.
January signings, what's that like? Can't relate to that.
We don't do that here. No. We don't have that. January
We
signing.
definitely not have
We not
that.
have that. But he came on and I want to say, I think it was his debut for Brentford. I'm not quite sure. I think it was, and he had a good amount of enthusiasm. And I just felt like Martinelli was tired. And from that point on, Martinelli was officially useless. He just looked very tired. Unless he was tracking back over a large space of grass, he didn't really give us much after that guy came on. And in that moment, the cross that Coyote put into the far post, we somehow messed up the defending there because he was too free to put that cross in. He lobs it to the bar close to the far post. I think Ayer heads it back across. Wissa's finish was lovely. It was a nice swivel. I felt that it was central enough that maybe Raya could have got something on it, but it went in, goal 1-1. How frustrated were you?
I actually wasn't frustrated like at all because I knew they were going to score.
Damn.
I don't remember the last time we kept a clean sheet against Brentford. I know we don't keep clean sheets in the league this season, but like against Brentford, we always concede. Like genuinely. It's always tit for tat, and it's always when we play against Brentford, it's always a equalizing goal when they score. Always,
Yeah.
like always a we go up or something like that, and then they score, and then we're like trying to win the game, trying to win the game, trying to win the game, and I knew that's what it was going to be today. like, um, I wasn't mad that at Wisa's shot because it was a really good turn and swivel.
Yeah.
I was more upset that we let the first cross in. Like I don't know who was on that side. I think it was Martinelli or Trossard.
It was both
Both
of
of
them,
them
and
like
they fucked it up.
both of them ran into each other or whatever, and they just let the guy ghost him behind them. Like I'm like, hello, somebody track the runner. Like
Yeah. That was frustrating. It just felt like an easily preventable goal, but the final move of the goal was pretty impressive. So shout out Wissa,
yeah. The
who
only other thing I could maybe even say is just maybe like Timber get a little bit tighter to his man, but even then, it's just a
yeah
good shot.
yeah I did have a slight sense that Saliba maybe could have done better on the header back across. He maybe could have got a body into the guy that headed it, and affected the accuracy of the header back across our box. But it happened, 1-1. Almost immediately afterwards, Brentford get the ball back after our kickoff, and Flecken, their goalkeeper, has the ball at his feet. He tries to, I don't know what he was trying to do, but Saka robs him. And somehow it looked like Saka maybe lost his bearings in that moment because I felt like that was once he got the ball, all he had to do was just roll it into the net, but he decides to take multiple touches, and I believe Coyote again comes back and robs him of the ball, and we get a corner instead of a goal. You seem to have a lot of thoughts about this moment. You are pregnant with thought, so go ahead and deliver your thoughts, young lady.
It was pain. It was pain. Like it reminded me. If anybody remembers that Spurs game from was it last year or 2 years ago when we were playing Spurs at home and like I think it was Jesus. Like we get the ball from the like right at the top of the box and we just fucked it up.
Yeah,
That's what it felt like watching that.
he
And I've never screamed at Saka the way that I screamed at him today. Like I was like, just shoot! What the like? I genuinely was just like, this has to be match sharpness. It
yeah.
has to just be match sharpness because your brain was thinking too heavily. It was like just shoot it. The net is empty.
Yeah, it was.
You don't have to take an extra touch.
Yeah, it was a strange moment. It was a strange moment, and I think, to be fair, like everyone, we all rate him very highly, and he's a very good player. He's among the best in the world. I can't. You know what? Let me not get into the details of who I would pick over him. There are not that many of them, though. Honestly, as an Arsenal fan, there's nobody. Put it that way. That's how much I love him. But we've started treating this motherfucker like some sort of Superman, some bionic dude where he gets injured for 3 months and he's supposed to come back and just be right. Like I think that was evidence, very clear evidence that it takes time for anybody to get back to their full form. Because a fully fit Saka that hasn't been out for months, he's moving faster. His brain is working faster in that situation.
Yeah, that was mental fatigue for
Yeah, it just
sure.
felt like he
But
froze.
it's something that I complain about a lot, not particularly about Saka, but about this team
Mm.
specifically. I've said this multiple times on the pod. The way that we press high, especially on the goalkeeper or the center backs, and get the ball back and not score, that pisses me off so bad. Any other really good team is going to punish those plays. They just will.
Yeah.
We've seen it. We've seen people punish Ramsdale many a time for that bullshit.
Well, that's why Ramsdale's where he is and we're where we are. Don't bring that motherfucker up no more.
Relegated.
Man, that dude averages like a relegation every other season. That's crazy. But yeah, oddly enough, we ended this game with 10 men without actually getting a red card because Brandon Buemo created a bridge under Jorginho during an aerial challenge, and it felt like Jorginho maybe cracked a rib or some shit when he fell because he was actually good for a while. But if you're watching him in the interim, in the space between that challenge and him actually going off, he kept doubling over like his stomach was hurting or something. And eventually he goes down. We kick the ball out. He goes straight off the pitch. At that point, we've made all our substitutions because Rice had gone off for Marino at that stage. So that was the last one of them.
That's who it was. I genuinely, when they said that we made all of our subs, I couldn't remember who the last sub was because I was like, we only made four.
Right.
What?
But it was.
And then I was like, oh, Declan Rice is on the bench. I was like, when did we make that sub and why? Like, just keep the extra. You know, Declan Rice can do a whole nother 90 minutes. Let's be serious. Like,
yeah. But I think, like all the other, I think of the core, okay, Saliba, of course, but he's a defender, so he's not running as much. But of the core guys in the front six, Declan Rice was the only one that had to start. Well, I guess Martinelli as well. But Declan also started, and you want to keep some petrol in the gas tank for Wednesday against Real Madrid. I understood the substitution, and you just don't anticipate that with 10, 15 minutes left that someone is gonna get hurt in that manner.
anticipate everything.
I'm sure Mikel did, but this time he can't put it all off. But were you concerned that with 10 men we were? I mean, naturally you would have been concerned, right? 10 men against 11
No.
men. No, you thought we were still.
I didn't think we were gonna concede for real. I just knew we weren't gonna score.
Mm,
Like honestly, I was like 10 men now, and we missed the one chance that we should have scored with the soccer chance. I was like, yeah, we're not gonna score. We just have to hold on at that point.
right.
I'm like, can we hold on? I think we can, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do concede another goal.
Right, but I'm really glad that we didn't because that would have been bad for the vibes going into Wednesday. So because as much as a 3-0 lead is relatively comfortable in a tie, it is Real Madrid and it is the Bernabeu and it is UEFA refs. So yeah,
Yeah.
we need all the
The
help we
evil
can
that
get.
will be done upon us in that game.
And for those of you listening that will be watching this game on Wednesday, just if you gotta, I know it's during the work hours for most of you. If you gotta do some drugs before you watch the game, go ahead and do that because there's gonna be some refereeing shit that you're gonna see that is gonna blow your motherfucking mind. The hope is that we can survive it, but yeah, today it was a 1-1 game. I thought that Arsenal did more than enough to actually win the game. It probably in my head should have been like a 2-1 or 3-1 game. But that's not what happened. And we have to sort of take the blame for that. I think between rotation and just not being efficient with the finishing, the result was probably fair. Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely should have been a 2-1. I don't think we made enough chances for it to be a 3-1 just because that Martinelli, like the block on Martinelli was just so good. I can't even complain about him not, not getting that off. Um, but it was just very much on brand for what we have been seeing this season. This is our 12th draw this season, I think,
It's a lot of
which
draws.
is absurd. Like I'm like, we haven't lost a lot this season, but we when we are drawn with a team, we can't get the winner. We can never just or we can never hold on to the winner and not concede in the last minute or something like that. And it's incredibly frustrating how so many of those games should have been wins. So many of them, because there's not many of those draws that should have been losses.
I,
Genuinely.
I agree. Very well said. I don't want to pick on nobody, but I really hate watching 90 minutes of Leandro Trossard. I just feel like it should never happen. Whenever possible, just even if you just got. I know you're saving other people's legs by playing him that much, but it is so frustrating to watch him because sometimes like he does this thing where he drops deep and he gets on the ball and he starts shimmying and shaking and acting as if he's Juan Romano Riquelme or some classic playmaker or some shit. Then what he ends up doing is he ends up playing a square ball or playing some through ball that doesn't actually go anywhere or giving the ball away or some shit. Like this is a consistent trend that he's kept alive since the moment he arrived at Arsenal. It's just that sometimes he combines that with end product in the form of goals or assists. And today that wasn't the case. So I was just watching that second half like, Mikel, get this nigga off the pitch. But you know what? It's not his fault that we drew the game. Well, it might be
Get
because
this jigaboo out of here.
him and Martinelli kind of fucked up on the Coyote cross that led to all that bullshit, you know. So, but I can't watch 90 minutes of him, man. Like, and you know, I'm glad for his service, but man, I cannot wait for the summer. I'll tell you that fucking much. Andrea, make it happen. Make it happen. So let's talk a little Madrid before we get out of here, Gabby, because you were not on the Madrid pod.
Yeah, I let y'all niggas run rampant.
Yes, and rampant we did. You know, we're like, you know what? Maybe Gabby should be on here, but you didn't have a bucket hat on you that day, so you could not join. But in any event, what did you make of the result? And you know, just briefly, how much did you enjoy that victory?
Nigga. I was wild. I was wild that day. I can't lie. Like, you know that deep down in my heart, I have the most hate for Chelsea and Chelsea fans. So the way that they had sat through that entire game to hate watch and got blamed, I've never felt so happy in my life. Like they were the catastrophizing that I was seeing on the timeline. Like, what if Arsenal win a Champions League? Oh, it was like crack. It was like 80s crack. Like genuinely, like the pure stuff, the good stuff.
That Reagan shit, that Iran Contra
Oh,
shit, or Iran as normal people say it.
yeah. I was just really. I said it before the game. I was like, you know what? Mermaid will have chances, but we'll have chances too. Let's just see if we take our chances.
Right.
And we just happened to take our chances. Although Courtois stood on his fucking head, I want to punch him in his face. But that's not the point. Like, that's not the point. The Declan Rice goals, sensational. I can't speak enough. I've watched that a million times. Like, genuinely.
Ma'am, like it's actually pathetic how much I've watched those goals. Like, I matter of fact, usually I rewatch most games. I'm not really going to bother with this Brentford game. I'm gonna just rewatch the Madrid second half again, you know, because that's where I'm at. And it was nice to see us convert chances, score free kicks. We've been begging for Declan Rice to take those forever, and it was nice to see that we weren't wrong about that shit. But man, like we really dominated them in a way that it almost scares me because I feel like I remember at the end of the game when they blew the whistle and Jude and Declan Rice were walking by each other. I could tell that Jude was mad. Like he took that
Oh,
shit
he was very
personal,
mad.
and he really shouldn't even be playing in this game because he tugged Odegaard back a couple times in that game and should have got a yellow.
I
So
agree.
that's that
I was
UEFA
like, that was
bullshit.
that not a
That's
yellow.
that
I don't
UEFA
know.
bullshit again, you know. So, you know, they already started in the first like, oh, we gonna keep him because you know he got a face we like to put on TV a lot because that was ridiculous. That's a yellow card in every league, in every game. Don't that late in the game, he should have got a yellow and been suspended for this game, which would have made me so happy. But that said, how do you expect us to approach the game away at the Bernabeu?
So the way that Mikel was talking after the game, he is very much a like, I don't want us to just sit back and try to hold on to this lead, and you can't do that against Real Madrid.
All right.
You can't not away from home. I almost feel I actually was I was talking to Jess last night about it, and she was like, I almost feel like we scored too much. Like, you know what I mean? We scored too much to where like we're so far ahead now that if we were to like lose, like that's crazy. And I was like, you know what? Um, I feel like they're gonna score. We know we're not gonna keep them out at home. I don't think we'll keep them out at home.
I mean, we don't
However,
concede a
I
lot.
think we will.
We don't concede a
We
lot in
don't
the
concede a
Champions
lot.
League. We just don't.
We don't concede a lot. But I will say I don't think we'll keep them out in general. Do I think that we'll concede three? No, I do not. I do not think we'll concede three. I think we just need one goal. Even if we lost 3-1, we still go through. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, I think what gives me hope, because I'm nervous about it, to be honest with you. Like, 3 is perfect. 4 would have been better. 5, I would have been talking shit. It would have taken like
Yeah.
5 goals for me to be like, yeah, we definitely going through. Like, but 3, there's still a possibility that their juju can work with, some UEFA sprinkles on top. But
Right.
I feel as if we have to go there and try to play our game, which I think the team is more than mature enough to do that. Whether it's there are going to be periods of the game where you have to drop into a block. There are going to be periods of the game where you want to, control the ball and make them do the running, do that 300 passes to death thing. But ultimately, what gives me the most hope is that Real Madrid are just defensively, they're so shit. They're lacking the
That's
personnel.
what I said.
And I feel like that means that Arsenal can get at least one goal. And if Arsenal can get one goal, then that makes a tie pretty much impossible for them. So that's where my hope
And
lies.
that's exactly how I talked to her off the ledge yesterday.
Oh.
I said, listen, I know that Real Madrid are going to score, but the question is not how many can they score. The question is, do they think that they can keep a clean sheet?
Right.
I do not.
I don't.
I do not.
I don't think.
I think we get at least one, and if we get at least one, and especially if it's early,
Yeah.
if we go up 1-0,
that I mean, it's still very nerve wracking. I might not watch most of that game, to be honest with you. Like, I don't think it's going to be good for my cardiovascular health to watch that game. So it might be a rewatch type thing. So
all I know is if you guys have the audacity to embarrass me and go to penalties against Real Madrid, I will not watch those penalties. The TV will be off. You guys tell me what happens. I will not be there.
But yeah, fingers crossed. I think the odds are definitely in Arsenal's favor. I know. I mean, like, we talk about the aura and the juju and the black devil magic and all that, but these are. I mean, we've seen it all. But at the end of the day, like, one team is better than the other team. I think the way Arsenal dominated them at the Emirates was like, I want to say, I almost feel like they were a little shell shocked. They didn't expect Arsenal to be that good, which is
That's exactly what it was.
Which is maybe the benefit of the English media basically hating on Arsenal all season, because we've had a bunch of injuries and unfair red cards and shit like that. All these other teams from other leagues are like, well, they're way behind Liverpool, so they can't be that good. Then they show up and try to play. And in every context in which a team actually tries to go head to head with Arsenal this season, they've been slapped. So I'm very hopeful.
especially in my opinion with Camavinga out. He is a very much a linchpin in that midfield.
Mhm.
Like I feel like they struggle a lot more when he's not there. And I'm like, you know what? I still back us. Like I'm never gonna. There's a lot of times that I will not back Arsenal to win a game because they stress me.
That's your brand.
But yeah, that's what I read. But against this team, like one thing about Arsenal, I know it's a daunting task to play against Real Madrid in general, especially in the Champions League. However, one thing about this team, this club, is that we play to our opponents. Whoever our opponent is, we will play up to them. So if we're playing the best of the best, we will play like that. When the problem is when we play in the Southamptons and the Brentfords and that shit. Then we start doing bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't really have that much problem against us playing matching Real Madrid. I think we'll be all right.
Almost like in big games, I almost feel more comfortable playing away from home. Like, because I feel like, the away fans are pretty dope, and the guys just have that mentality, especially when Gabriel is there, who unfortunately would not be there. But I have confidence that Arsenal can definitely do this. I'll just put that out into the ether. That my belief is that we will get through, and I think it'll make people sort of realize that Real Madrid have been, one, kind of cheap, and two, they're still in a transitional phase. Like, they played a 39-year-old in their midfield at the Emirates. That's not something. Generally, you're not going to win a lot of competitions doing that, even if that 39-year-old is Luka Modric. So I'm very optimistic. I'm confident even, but I'm still a little nervous because, one, I'm always nervous. I was nervous for this Brentford game, but especially against Real Madrid. But these are the games we want to watch as fans. This is why that stadium got built, the Emirates. This is why, what's their face? Real Madrid upgraded the Bernabeu, for nights like Wednesday, So I trust the guys to show up there with the right attitude, the right mentality, and to get the result we need. I think.
I mean, I know they're not listening to this pod, but if they were, the only advice I would give them is just play the team on the pitch. Don't play the occasion. Don't play the badge. Like, don't get rattled by the stadium either. Like, they still have to not concede. They can't make a mistake. They have to be perfect against us to win.
And do we think they can do that?
We'll see.
We shall see. On that note, thanks for joining us, folks. This was Arsenal 1, Brentford 1. Apparently, this is the 7th game where we've held an opponent to 0.3 XG or below. And we, on the other hand, have averaged 1.6 XG in those games. And we've won 3 of them and drawn the rest, which is ridiculous. But I'm closing on that note because this was a Brentford pod. But, holla Arsenal, okay? Fuck all that. All right, Gabby, you know what to tell the people?
Peace.
Hey folks, this is Dean from the Shirtless Plantain Show. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and follow us on all our socials. You can see them right beneath our recordings in every video. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.